Good evening, sci-fi fans. It is I, Sir Willy Todgerson Jr., presenting a book haul video via the magic of the YouTube website. My friend Sephiros has told me that he is getting lots of views and some little comments from little people, and he would like to continue with this experimentation of science fiction. Science fiction. Like me, Willy Todgerson Jr., the science fiction author. The author of many science fiction books, and maybe some non-science fiction books. Recently, I have made a book known as The Involvement of a Lady, which is a very serious book about dramatic things that occur, such as a lady being involved with a man, and the man does not love the lady as much as she doth desire. So she decides to prick him in the head, and the police get involved, and there are all manner of dramatic occurrences occurring in the book. And the lady was from space. Now I have gathered you all here on my friend's YouTube channel again to make a video, as explained earlier in the video. I will be performing another book haul. You are well aware of the reasons for this. I am an author. I do not have time to read books, but I definitely have time to buy a book and show it off on the internet and edit the video for many, many hours. But I do not have time to read the books, obviously. Now I will begin to show the books on the video. Book number 1 is this book, God Game by Andrew M. Greeley. A very unfortunate name, as it must be pronounced thus every time you say it. I will not be doing so again. Now this book appears to be a science fiction novel about a lady and a knight and another lady. I will read the back. Wood. Let me adjust my spectacles. What would it be like to be a god? To bear the responsibility for a world of passionate and violent men and women who love you, ignore you, curse you, disobey you, pray to you, and desperately need you. A world you can see and influence, but never actually enter. In the midst of a complex computer game, a lightning bolt strikes and the incredible occurs. The player finds himself plunged into a colourful world of alien people, engaged in bitter warfare. His people, accepting him as their deity, entering his dreams, invading his days. for Nathan and Eliza and the princesses. I do not know which princesses they are speaking of. Maybe if we read the book, we shall find the answer to the query. But probably not. Another book, SF-18. SF. New writings in SF-18. Edited by John Carnell. Now this book is not in focus. I may cover my face and the book may focus. Who knows? Featuring stories by Lee Harding, Robert Wells, Donald Malcolm, James White, William Spencer, David Kyle, and Graham the Man. It is an anthology of short stories of the science fiction variety, and I have not read it. I have not read any short stories. Another book, Midas by Wolfgang Jeschke. The driver had seen her killed, shot down as she ran. Later, he'd seen her alive and well. He knew he hadn't made a mistake. She was too famous for that. I don't know what that means, but the cover is rather fetching indeed. It is like a computer coming to life as a man. And it is a New English Library book, which is very well sought after on the internet. People enjoy the New English Library books indeed. Another book, The Counterfeit Man. The man who was not another man. Also by Alan E. Nawase. The Counterfeit Man is only one of the exciting stories in this collection. Tales of Imagination by the author of Beyond Infinity, a book I have not heard of. I don't think. I may own it, but I have not heard of it at all. Let me read one of the titles of the short stories. Circus. That sounds very funny. I hope there is a clown. Another book is The Book in My Hand. Don't Pick the Flowers by D.F. Jones, which I believe may be a rare book, but it also may not be a rare book. But it does exist. Here, in my hand. The Choking Earth. Experimental drilling on the Pacific seabed breaks through the Earth's thin mantle. The sea. Little Simon, the little boy, from Science Fiction Retirement Library, may enjoy this book, as it has a ocean in it. Vast quantities of nitrogen, trapped for untold millions of years, are released into the atmosphere. As a result, the oxygen in the air becomes dangerously diluted. Whole areas of America are thrown into chaos as the inhabitants literally fight for breath. America? Who cares? After the Fall by Robert Sheckleybob. I believe this is actually edited by Robert Sheckley, as it is an anthology of short stories. Again, The last days of parallel Earth, the day after the end of the world. A very good year, fire and or ice. That sounds like something I wrote once when I was a little baby man. Sun grab, where are you now, Eric Skobik? Bud, and so on, stories. Robert Sheckley presents a veritable feast of alternative visions of the way the world will end for your delectation and delight. Only a madman would delight in the destruction of the earth. Another book, The Castle of Iron by Elsprague de Campe and Fletcher Pratt. I know many people are not very fond of the Elsprague de Campe author, but I have not read them, so I may like them. We may find out one day. We may not. Now this book appears to be about a man called Harold Shea, The Mathematics of Magic. It was the greatest discovery ever, or so thought Professor Harold Shea. With the proper equations, he could instantly transport himself and his long-suffering colleagues back, or sideways, in time, to all the wondrous lands of ancient myth and legend. That sounds like one of my novels, about a man who dots around in time and he becomes his own mother. It is called The Man Who Was His Own Mother. You may find it at all good bookshops, like John Menzies. Another book, War by Jamie Blish. This book appears to be about a fat little robot man who wields trees as weapons. Very peculiar indeed. Only a madman could come up with such a premise as a fat robot. The glowing ovoid plummeted downward, the whole sky screaming like a metallic banshee as the air boiled away from its sides. A thin line appeared in the metal, then thickened into a door. The air was rent by a searing hiss. Slowly the strange being, soon to be known to all mankind as Vor, began to emerge. Sounds like the day the earth stood still. What was that man called? Vimto? I don't remember. Another book is an anthology book. Not really. It's a collection of short stories by Piers Anthony, but the book is called Anthology, which has confused me greatly. It seems Anthony's most piercing tales. There are a lot of puns on this book indeed. In this personal selection of Piers Anthony's best stories, you will encounter clouds and corn artists, a lady and a toaster, dogs, dentists, a vengeful ghost, a wise monster, a tiger, a pair of lovebirds, and a most intriguing encyclopedia. Could it be the Encyclopedia Britannica CD-ROM? It could be, but it was written in 1985, or round about then, which was before encyclopedias were invented, if I am correct, which I invariably am not. Another book is the best of Cordwainer Smythe, the universe of Cordwainer Smith. It is another short story collection, but this one is the best of Cordwainer Smith. The cover is very lovingly painted by a person of some description. So there you go. Another book is A.E. Evangelivite, Empire of the Atom, which sounds to me like a Fallout type cult or something. I will read the back of the book. Maybe it will explain the situation. Clade was a mutation, a disgrace to his royal lineage and an outcast among men, much like myself. But Clane had a gift, a mind as extraordinary and powerful as his body was weak and twisted, much like myself. A mind which would one day rule the universe. Do you get where I am going? An exile on his own planet, Clade bided his time. Then came the last great war, which would decide the future of mankind. And Clay knew his moment had come, for he had created the ultimate weapon, a fiery, insubstantial ball whose depths contained a galaxy, a universe, the most beautiful and the most deadly of possessions. A ball? I've got many balls. Perhaps too many balls. But perhaps not enough balls if they're as dangerous as this book suggests. Speaking of books, another book. Who's Who in Science Fiction. Now, I purchased this book as I did believe there was an entry on myself in the book. But there is not. I believe it may have gone amiss for some reason. But there is a little section on my father, Bill Todgerson Sr. Now, I find it peculiar that my father has always had the senior part of his name. He must have been a psychic man who knew he would have a child called Junior Willy. Junior Willy? Another book, Robert Silverberg, Downward to the Earth. And this cover features a green elephant walking on a cloud in the sky. Perhaps it is heaven, where the elephants were invented. The planet Belzagor is predominantly jungle, populated with bizarre flora and fauna, and governed by the elephant-like alien Nildoror and the bipedal Sulidoror. Gunderson was last on Belzagor when it was the colonial planet Holman's World, and he was an administrator. He has returned to meet old friends, his former lover Sina, and the enigmatic Kurtz. Yet Gunderson is still driven by an old guilt from the time when he prevented some Nildoror from journeying to their sacred place for the mysterious ceremony of rebirth. Now he wishes to undergo the bizarre Nildor rite, to travel into the Mist Country for his own metamorphosis. Could it be a book about a man who turns into an elephant? Most intriguing. And perhaps insane. Another book is a Theodore Sturgeon book known as E Pluribus Unicorn. The unicorn, of course, being the Scottish animal symbol thingy, and Pluribus being a television show on Apple TV. Now this appears to be another collection of short stories by Theodore Sturgeon, and the back of the book contains words which I will not read because it's a short story collection. Another book, It is Ghost by Piers Anthony. Another Piers Anthony book, The Ectoplasm of the Stars. During his shore leaves on Earth, time ship Captain Shetland. The Shetland Isles are in Scotland. Where am I? He felt like a sad ghost, wandering through a run-down, energy-starved, shadow world. But though Earth's people blamed spacers for wasting resources, Shetland's deep time mission was to find a new power source for his ailing home planet. What he found was another ghost. Another ghost. Alice, the chemist of the Meg 2, had committed suicide and now wandered its corridors, lost in a lonely private hell. The rest of the crew were soon to follow her. Ooh. Beyond the galaxy-sized black hole at the edge of the universe, another universe awaited. A universe of ghosts that would turn Shetland and his crew into ectoplasmic energy beings. They have just spoiled the entire book. On the back, that is not a good blurb at all. Another book, The Godmakers, by Don Pendleton, the man who wrote many books in the Executioner series, a series of men's adventure books about a man who executes other men in the mafia. I think he probably shoots them all with a gun, or two guns, or a bazooka, which is a type of gun. The Godmakers is about the following. Patrick Honor was possessed by peepees. Peepees? Psychic power sources. PPS. Psychic power sources, which led him, even though he could not understand them. Beyond understanding was feeling. Beyond feeling was knowing. Patrick Honor knew only that he had to go on. Vague. He had to explore the unknown, to escape his body, to travel to the root octave of the 9th parallax. I believe this may have been written by a man who writes the dialogue for Star Trek. And he had to find Octavia, the unearthly beauty who beckoned him from another world. Another world! There was so much to learn. What was the real power source? Was it sex? Or science? Or love? What was the meaning of the number 9? Why was the President of the United States going to die on June 15th, 1975? 81 days exactly after Patrick Honor's death? They've spoiled the book. They've spoiled the bloody book. The main character dies. It's all you need to know. Another book is Sun Diver by David Brin, which is a book in a series of books about an uplift war where men do something with dolphins, I think. I don't know because I have not read any of the books. but I will read the back of the book, and maybe you will begin to learn your place, or the plot of the book. In all the universe, no species has ever reached to the stars without the guidance of a patron, except perhaps mankind. Did some mysterious race begin the uplift of humanity aeons ago? And if so, why did they abandon us? Circling the sun under the caverns of Mercury, Expedition Sundiver prepares for the most momentous voyage in our history, a journey into the broiling inferno of the sun, to seek our destiny in the cosmic order of life. I don't know if you'll find that in the sun. I think it may be a tad dangerous for such a thing. The sun is hot. Hotter than a cooler sun. Another book, David Brin's Startide Rising, which is another book in the series which I have just mentioned in this book haul video featuring me, Willy Todgerson Jnr. This book is featuring the dolphins I mentioned earlier. It is David Brin's second novel, and it established him as one of the premier science fiction writers of his generation upon its 1983 publication. This is all knowledge I am already aware of, and did not read it on the back of the book. Another book is this book, which is in fact two books. Let me see if you can read the title. I think it is blurry. Maybe if I cover my face, it will go into focus. Don't think so. It is The Fall of Chronopolis and Collision with Kronos by Barrington J. Bailey, a science fiction author supreme, probably. The ruins on Earth were mystifying. How could anything disobey the laws of time? I do it, it's easy. Not until scientists of the Titanium Legions perfected time travel did the awesome truth begin to emerge. Earth was about to become victim of an extraordinary cosmic accident, more horrifying and calamitous than anything imaginable. A collision between two separate fronts. A collision with Kronos. Kronos. It means time. I have figured out the book. It's about time travel, of course. Another book, Orbit 1 by Mel J. And this book features a red text block, which is rather fetching. I wish all of my books had coloured text blocks, and I would line them up, and they would form the colours of the rainbow. And I would point at the books on the bookshelf, and I would say, "Look at it! It is the colours of the rainbow. Red, yellow, etc." I will read the back of this book called Orbit 1, which is not Orbit 1, the science fiction anthology by Demon Knight. It is a different book by a different person. A strange intelligence was directing the destruction of the little band of humans on Kolar. So far, the colonists had been beset by fires and floods, hurricanes and tidal waves. Glenn Bridger, the leader, knew these catastrophes were occurring too often to be the work of Mother Nature, but the new planet had been explored and was completely uninhabited. What? Cola must be concealing some alien life force. But where? I don't know how they came to that conclusion. I think it is just wishful thinking on the part of Glenn Bridger. Another book is a John Brunner book, Children of the Thunder, featuring a man wearing rather fetching little circle sunglasses. And he is wearing a white shirt. Britain in the near future, the country is heading towards ecological disaster. Chemical waste is seeping into people's brains, deadly parasites contaminate food, and a despotic fascist government is trying to keep it all quiet. This could be a book about today. I am being very political by saying such a thing. The video may be banned by YouTube now. We will see. But there is one thing they can't suppress. The emergence of a new master race. I don't think that's happening though. But maybe. Another book is a Brian Aldiss book, Greybeard, about a bald man with a grey beard. Very appropriate titling for the novel. Indeed! In a world where ecological disaster has turned the English countryside into a depopulated wasteland of armed camps that had once been villages, and her cities into silent, crumbling mausoleums, Greybeard offered hope. Maybe he had a lot of money, or something. Humanity was faced with certain extinction, unless one lonely man's I thought that said lovely man, which would be much more of a pleasant English type of thing to write. One lonely man's quest was successful. Greybeard and his wife, Martha, set out to harvest the scarcest and most precious resource of all, living human children. I do not know the intentions of Greybeard. I hope they are a good intentioned intention, like to raise the little children into adults who will proliferate the world with other people. I could read the book instead of talking a load of tripe. Another book is Brian Stableford, The Walking Shadow, featuring muscly metallic statues. A naked man wearing a loincloth. I wonder if Tim may enjoy this book. Let us read the back and we will see if it is his sort of swords and sorcery book. I imagine it is not, because there would not be silver men in a sword and sorcery novel. I think in front of 80,000 people, Heisenberg, the new messiah, the darling of the media, had gone into a trance of immeasurable depth. His body had gone into limbo, awaiting some future awakening. And it wasn't long before others had similarly gone into stasis and followed him. Soon there were thousands fleeing through the eons, congregating at meeting points hundreds of years ahead, and then leaping off ever further into the future, until finally they reached the very end of time. But then where would they go? And where were the people they'd left behind? They were whenever they were originally. That was an obvious question for the back of the book to ask me. maybe I will sniff this book in a Wizard Jim type fashion. This is very familiar. What does it... Book. Yes, that will do. Another book is Richard McKenna's Casey Agonistes. I think that may be a word. A fascinating collection of the best short stories by a world-renowned creative genius. The Secret Place. Out in the desert was a secret place, a place where worlds meet. Hunter, come home. There was something strange and wonderful about the planet where ecology was more powerful than science. And Casey Agonistes. Casey was a fantasy creature. He didn't exist, but he performed miracles. I don't know how if he did not exist. In our book, The Lord of Death and the Queen of Life. Now this book is a very amusingly covered book with a very peculiar expression on this man's face. I will read the back of the book and you will learn all about the Lord of Death and the Queen of Life. Mercury or Venus, death or life. Such was the riddle posed to the 4 pioneers who first voyaged to those worlds. For on the one planet they found the harsh virtues raised to the ultimate degree, and on the other the so-called gentle virtues glorified. What they decided could chart the way for all humanity. Here is a classic interplanetary adventure of strange civilizations and strange planets, as written by the brilliant co-author of The Blind Spot, a book I have never heard of in my life. It is written by Homer Eon Flint, and it is a little ace book, which would be very good in a smaller bookcase that the bigger books would not fit inside of. Another book is Jack Williamson's C.T. Late in the 22nd century, the great cataclysmic drift of C.T. antimatter. C.T. antimatter? Is C.T. antimatter? The great cataclysmic drift of C.T. menaces the universe. Yet certain sky wanderers, reckless men of vision, dare to harness C.T.'s unlimited powers for creation. You can make a man out of the bad atoms. Yes. Yes. That does sound like a very good idea for a book. Luckily, I have already written it. Another book is Gordon R. Dixon's S.F. Best. Another collection of short stories, this time by Gordon R. Dixon. And they are all contained in this book here. It has an introduction by the man known as Spider Robinson, who I believe may be a supervillain of some note, or just a man with a peculiar name. I have another book by Spider Robinson. It does not explain his name, So he is just a man called Spider. Another book is The Swordswoman by Jessica Amanda Salmonson. Ooh. She was the lady who edited Amazons, the book which I forgot to read recently. I was going to be on the Eebs book show, but reality transpired against me. Yes, kendo is a thing of the spirit, or so Erin Weiler thought of the ancient art of Japanese sword fighting, until that day in the fencing hall when her bamboo sword was transformed into whetted steel of supernatural sharpness, and her smiling sparring partner became a loathsome demon, thirsting for her soul. Suddenly, kendo had become a thing of madness. Now you see on the cover she is fighting little ants. Big ants. Some sort of demon ants, indeed. Another book is Pierce Anthony's Kilobyte, a book featuring a pixelated dragon monster on the front of the book. I will read the back of the book, as is the style of this video series. In the game of Kilobyte, a wheelchair-bound cop can stand and fight an army of sorcerers and dragons. In the game of Kilobyte, a heartbroken girl can heal her pain through role-playing magic and adventure. In the game of Kilobyte, a mystery player can satisfy his urge to kill and kill again until fantasy is not enough. It's time to raise the stakes. Kilobyte, the game is real. You lose, you die. That sounds like it could be a scary book. I will send it to my friend Sebastian Imperius. He may be more of the sort of type of man who would read a book about a man killing a man. Another book I have bought is The Twilight Realm by Christopher Carpenter. Now this book sounds like many other books in this haul somehow. Every week they met in a cellar room for their role-playing game. At the cast of the dice they would become warriors or thieves or priests. They battled against demons, trolls and wizards. They sought treasure or rescued captive princesses. Though they played their roles to the full, all five knew it was just a game. Until one day it all came true, and they found themselves transported to a world where the magic was all too real, and where creatures beyond their imagination stalked an alien land. For now they were trapped in the Twilight Realm, and they had become real warriors forced to undertake a desperate quest and fight for their very souls. This book is obviously the inspiration for Stranger Things, which finished recently, and the twist at the end was that the whole series was just a little game of Dungeons and Dragons. Who would have guessed such a thing? Another book is Voyage to Faramido and Capellaria by Frigyes Kerinthi, who is a person who is not of the English language description. I do not know where they are coming, but it was first published in Hungary, so I believe they are a Hungarian person. of some description. First, there is Faramidu, a planet peopled by machines who regard organic life as a disease. That sounds like the video game Massive Effect. Gulliver is held to trial as a representative of the most corrupt disease in the universe, the disease of humanity. Oh, yes. Then there is Capillaria, an underwater world where the men are nutritious delicacies and the women rule like gods. Gulliver is mysteriously saved from drowning, but his respite is short-lived when his dreaded sex is discovered. That seems like it would be fairly obvious, but maybe not. I do not know at all. Another book is Far From Home by Walter Tevis. And this, my friends, is another anthology of short stories. No, wait, it is not an anthology because it is all by the one man, so it is a collection. And there are 13 stories in this book. Lucky 13, I believe they say. This long overdue collection of Walter Tevis's best short stories proves him to be a master of the form. They range from the ingenuity of the other end of the line, in which a man receives a phone call from himself in the future, and follows the instructions he is given with unexpected and disastrous results, to the sophistication of rent control, where a couple discover that when they are in bed together, they can literally make time stop. To the deeply felt emotion of a visit from mother, whose protagonist is revisited by his dead parents. That is one story spoiled by the back of the book again. Another book, This Dreaming Earth by John Brunner. And I am very fond of this cover, which looks like a thingy of some description. It almost looks like a Michael Moorcock book from a moment of vision. Here is a novel to equal Arthur Clarke's great work, Childhood's End, which is a book I have indeed read myself. It tells with frightening clarity of a desperately stricken earth, racked by overpopulation and plagued by famine and despair. It tells too of a new breed of men and women, 21st century lotus eaters, caught up in a mysterious euphoria which will ultimately threaten all life on this planet. The drug-induced world of happy dreams. Do these happy dreamers herald the end of the human race, or the next extraordinary step in the evolution of man? I do not know. We will see if we read the book. Another book in the very big pile of infinite books is The Schimmelhorn File, Memoirs of a Dirty Old Genius. Much like myself. He has the mind of a child, much like myself. He has the sexual proclivities of a teenager, much like myself, and the subconscious of a scientific genius, much like myself. And despite the best efforts of Mama Schimmelhorn to get her old man to make Swiss cuckoo clocks by the day and stay home by night, Papa's inventions will keep coming. And so do his adventures, as he manages to take time off from his busy schedule of chasing the pretty pussycats to take a little trip to save the Western world from invading Mongol hordes on Count von Schimmelhorn's Time Pony. Engage in encounters of a very close kind with the ladies of Betelgeuse 9. Invent an X-rated cuckoo clock and immortality in the Sodom Serum. What have I bought? And who else but Papa could find a way to make the world safe for democracy? When the nerves come from the woodwork out... What? The nerves come from the woodwork out? The ramblings of a maniac. Another book is a Ron Goulart book, which I think may be enjoyed by Little Boy Brittleby, who is a viewer that I am aware of. Skyrocket Steel. Is Peter Tinsley imagining things? Or did that frail, beautiful doll, Tracy Flynn, flip the gangster Dime Gallardo to the ceiling? But just as Dime was about to make macaroni out of Pete's skull. Pete can't get an explanation out of Tracy, and he's got his hands full trying to grope his way into a cozier position with her. All of which make it tough to concentrate on the Martian extravaganza he's supposed to be writing for Star Spangled Studios. But things get tougher still when Pete gets zonked for real by a prop stun ray, and he and Tracy get kidnapped by an alien who's supposed to be an actor, or an actor who's supposed to be an alien. Suddenly Pete's the hero of a real-life star-spangled story, fighting to save Tracy, the world, and his own hide from cosmic danger. It is another book about a fake thing becoming real. I am quite good at selecting the books together. Another book is this one, by Orson Scott Card, the evil bastard man, The Folk of the Fringe, about World War III. All over North America, people are relearning the survival skills of the first settlers. Eking a living from the land, they band together in city-sized communities that sustain the traditions of faith and law against the predators beyond their boundaries. For those who chafe at the old rules, there is the dangerous trek west, to an oasis of peace and plenty for anyone willing to help make the desert bloom. It sounds like a post-apocalyptic book about the thing I just read on the back. Another book is Ben Bova's The Star-Crossed, which is a book about a television show known as The Star Lost, which was created by Harlan Ellison, and this is why they appear to have drawn a little picture of Harlan Ellison on the front of the book. Indeed, this is a dramatical description thingy of what actually happened behind the scenes of the television show. Ben Bova himself was the scientific consultancy man on the show, and he wrote this book about it. It is the 21st century. The aluminium skyscraper that houses Titanic Productions is built to earthquake specifications. Should the earth tremble beyond desired tolerances, the whole tower will take off like a rocket, hurtling itself and its occupants to a splashdown in the Pacific. Now, is that what happened with the real TV show? I assume so. I don't know how, but it is in the book, therefore, it is true. It is true. Another book is Orbit 2 by Demon Knight, edited by Demon Knight. It is another anthology of short stories featuring many authors of a science fictional description. Kate Wilhelm, Jeannie Wolfe, Joanne Russ, Ra Lafferty, and Brian Waldes. Maybe I will read a story or two from this book of short stories, and then I will write a short story of my own, and I will send it to Jake Pulp Morton Man to put in his Weird Frequencies sequel book. Unless it is a terrible short story that I write, which will be likely, although I do have 1098 published works, so I do not know how I could possibly write a short story that is too bad to go into a little anthology of self-published works. Another book, The Valley of Creation by Edmund Hamilton, who is an author who writes books. This is another book about space, I think. We are nearing the bottom of the pile of books now, so here is another book. It is Simak, Enchanted Pilgrimage, another of his Lord of the Rings type novels about goblins and ghouls and hellhounds. Their quest was to find the elders, but hellhounds, witchcraft, and harpies barred their way. From the theft of a manuscript in a fusty library, an amazing tale develops. From a young man's obstinate questions emerges an answer of stupendous import. The quest for an elder civilization becomes a terrifying ordeal. Enchanted Pilgrimage is like no other fantasy novel. A stunning adventure set in an alternative universe where myths still walk the earth. Indeed. Another book is this book, which appears to be scary, too scary for me. Now, this book is more of a Sebastian Imperius book. I do not think I can even read about this book. It is too scary. I will just not do such a thing. Another book is this book, The Best of Frederick Pohl. Now, this is another collection of short stories by Frederick Pohl, and they are the best short stories ever made by the man. And this is a very special book indeed. I picked it up and it appears to be signed by none other than Frederick Pohl, the science fiction author. And it was only £2 coins. A good deal if you ask me. Another book is this book here, which is 3 books in one book. A collection of 3 science fiction novels, very small novels if you ask me, by Theodore Sturgeon, Clifford D. Simak, and Murray Leinster. And it is a pyramid book with a stripe up the side, and I know Pulp Morton's Jake does not care for the pyramid books because of this stripe at the side. It is making the artwork small, and the artwork on this book is very nice indeed. And it is still out of focus. I believe my camera is possessed by some sort of Satan! Nonetheless, it is a book. Maybe I will read the names of the books out loud. Murray Leinster's book is called The Sickness. That is not true at all. Let me check. Murray Leinster's book is called West Wind. The book by Theodore Sturgeon is called There Is No Defense. And the Clifford D. Semakian book is called Galactic Chest, which I assume is about a space lady's bosom, because it was written by a man in the 60s. In fact, 1956. That is definitely a sexist short story novel. Another book is Clifford D. Simak's The Fellowship of the Talisman. Now, I know in a previous video I did say that he was ripping off Lord of the Rings, but the title The Fellowship of the Talisman is going a step too far, I believe. Through a wilderness blighted by horror rode Duncan, son of the noble house of Standish. Astride his mighty war horse, he was pursuing a quest vital to the future of civilization. I guess that does not sound like Lord of the Rings, but it is still called The Fellowship of the Talisman. The final book in this video of a book haul is this very special book by Jonathan Frakes. And there is a picture of Jonathan Frakes on the back of the book. You may know him as Lieutenant Riker from Star Trek The Next Generation. And he has written a book with another man, I think, Dean Wesley Smith. Now I wonder how much of the book was written by Jonathan Frakes. Could it be he merely provided some sort of an outline? Or perhaps he said, Please, Dean Wesley Smith, can you write a book for me? And I'll say, I wrote the book. I do believe that may be the situation, but we will find out in the future when we read the book. Possibly. Whatever happened to Jonathan Frakes?
Whatever happened to Jonathan Frakes? Well, you see, I sold him a car, but it didn't have brakes. He drove up to the intersection, staring at his own reflection. When he turned around, it was too late.
Thank you, friends, for watching my YouTube video featuring a book haul. Maybe in the future I can record some sort of other video about books. Maybe I will make a video of the books I have read in the 2025 year, and I will show you the books, and I will say, I have read it, I have read it, I have read it, I have read it, and I will say that many times. Now, what is this?